Hey alla, hi everyone. I'm so grateful and honored to be here today in such a held space with so much knowledge, experience, and interest for what most people shy away from, death and dying. Mind you, since arriving here yesterday, I've had already 4 conversations on the subject with random people, so there is hope. A little about myself. So my name is JennyAnn Gunnarrson, Swedish way. Englified, it would be JennyAnn Gunnarrson. So I am Swedish and I live in Sweden, in Gothenburg. And so Anetta, you have a friend. I also have a weird accent. My working background is within hospitality in various positions. And so service has always been the red thread for me. And then in 2010, my mom got terminally ill with lung cancer and died within 6 weeks at the age of 67. That was a life-changing experience. Very sad, but still an experience I wouldn't want to be without, as strange as it may sound, and you all understand. My mom's death is the main reason for me doing all the death and dying work, and so I'm a funeral director with my own small independent funeral home since 2014. I am a trained end-of-life doula with Living Well, Dying Well since 2019, and I'm certified with a full diploma. And since 2021, I train death doulas in Sweden, and more to come on that. And of course, I do doula work, which is always closest to my heart. So my presentation in the study I'll be presenting is, we've heard wonderful talks today about the role, what we should be doing, the people we support. So I have another angle. It's really, why do we want to become death doulas? So now please bear with me if I seem glued to my script and tend to rush through the slides, as I had 36 to begin with, and I'm now down to only about half. Phew. For those of you who want to know more of the extensive presentation, I am more than happy to share that afterwards. So, some very, very short facts about Sweden. Sweden is part of the Nordic region in Northern Europe. Sweden is large in size, but small in population, 10.5 million. Swedish is the main language, but we also have 5 other official minority languages, where, for example, Sami is spoken by Sweden's indigenous people. The English language is commonly spoken as it's learned from the age of 9 in school. Sweden is a democracy and a monarchy. The Swedish constitution and its 4 fundamental laws define how the country is governed. And Sweden is also a member of the European Union. And then some short facts about Sweden's healthcare system. So the system is mainly government funded through the tax system and is universal for all citizens. It's decentralized, responsibility lies with the regional councils. And just as in many other developed countries, people in Sweden are living longer and longer, which of course places demands on the healthcare system. There is a lack of primary care infrastructure, as well as geographical and socioeconomic inequities. So let me get back to the tax system and the possibilities of getting services outside the already available healthcare system at affordable rates called RUT. So RUT, R-U-T, is an acronym of the words cleaning, maintenance, and laundry in Swedish. I won't say them. A person who hires you to do work may get a tax reduction of 50% for the labor cost. Material costs and travel expenses does not give the RUT entitlement. Domestic work may entitle you to a RUT deduction if it is carried out in a home that you purchase and lives in or uses as a holiday home. And examples of domestic work include cleaning and washing, moving services, care services, garden work, etc. And so I contacted the tax authorities at an early stage and explained about my doula organization, and they agreed that some of our services do apply to the RUT system, and therefore we have their approval. So here is some background to why I wanted to bring the end-of-life doula role and training to Sweden. So I may not have an academic background in the end-of-life field, but I'm very much a doer, believing in learning by doing in some sense. And I feel that goes well with the doula role. And according to the Swedish paper, I particularly feel aligned with the words knowledge and lived experiences. And among the authors, you may notice and know Carol Tischerman, friend of mine. She's US born, now living in Sweden, and a professor at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. So why then do the UK end-of-life doula training? Well, I felt something was missing from my funeral work, knowing there had been so much more on my mom's death than just the funeral. And so I came across the end-of-life role through the Death Cafe movement, and then on to Living Well, Dying Well's training. There wasn't anything like it in Sweden. And so I found that missing piece. When I had completed the training in the UK, I was on my own in Sweden. Yes, I was a member of the End-of-Life Doula UK, but the aspects of transferability to fit with the Swedish culture and legislation was missing. Yet I was inspired by the UK training to bring the doula movement to Sweden, as I found many similarities with other countries where the movement has been established, such as inadequate health and social care systems to support people at end of life, over-medicalization, and an absence of holistic approach, true person-centered care, supporting one-on-one, and the biggest one being separation of death and dying from the everyday. It's a no talk about subject. I also had much media coverage from the start, and lots of people got in touch with me, wanting more information and to learn more about the role. So the public interest was there. So reinforcing previous slide and this one with similarities. So this paper again reinforces the point. I have referenced this work and my rationale to bring the death doula movement to Sweden. In other words, to reclaim the historic loss of community-based knowledge. So thank you to fellow colleagues as authors of the paper and for inviting me to this international group. So on bringing the training to Sweden, I had some concerns and thoughts like the adaptation to the Swedish context, such as language, of course, legalities, and culturally, what is key, I believe, and we talked about that just before. For example, Swedes have a very direct way of communicating. It's yes or no. I also had concerns on the slow pace, lack of accessibility, obviously, because I lived in Sweden, and to me, complicated structures of assessment processes. And so I started to review all trainings provided across a number of different countries, but also similar trainings nationally, not only end-of-life healthcare, but also grief and trauma, which is why our training is co-tutored. And from the start, I wanted to establish one organization for both the training and the holding of the learners. It's important that people feel confident and supported to go out there and practice. Sorry, I keep looking down. It's my glasses. I can't see. Also, I set out to, and I managed to secure the legal title of Doula, which is death doula in Swedish. And it was also important to make people feel empowered to finish the training and to obtain the certification so they are credible. So this is a little on where we are now. First training started in September 2021. And since then, we've had 7 trainings delivered, and the 8th starts in late September this year with 18 people. And you'll see the numbers of people by stages of the training. And we have, at the moment, 38 completed and certified. 7 are in pipeline, which I'll have to deal with when I get home. And they keep coming. And so by the end of this year, we will have trained over 100 death doulas. We've had a first reunion last fall, and the next one is planned for October this year. So this is, of course, to be a yearly happening. And where networking is a main thing and asked for at the reunions, together, of course, with the sharing of real life cases. And these are some of the CPD sessions that we have delivered, and there's more to come this fall. Yeah. So just to show you a map of Sweden in correlation to Europe. So where the hearts are, this is where we have presence. And as you can see, we've had people from all over Sweden train with us, but we have also had other nationalities. And so these are the countries that we have ambassadors in or from. But since making this map, we can now also add Austria, Belgium, and Netherlands. So a little about the study and where we are on that. So the presentation abstract, which you will have seen and read, I hope, shortly described, is a study to help identify potentially unmet needs in death doula training, where we aim to explore trainees' initial motivations, expectations, and confidence levels, and identify whether these change throughout their training and on completion. So as pioneers in Sweden, and still at the beginning, we thought it would be both interesting and useful to do the study, making sure the delivery of our training was relevant and wanted. So while our findings are specific to the Swedish context, we believe that the findings will be of interest to all training organizations and individuals. You will also notice I say we at times, and with that, I would like to acknowledge Ali Dickinson. She's online, I hope, who is the founder of End of Life Doula UK. And she's been a great support in help in carrying out and analyzing the study. Also, we were a little bit late to the party. It was agreed at a later stage for me to speak here today, and so we didn't finalize the details of our approach to the study until March. And the interviews were then conducted during the course of May and June. So we have yet to complete the full analysis of data collected, and we aim to report further, noting though it is a longitudinal study. But in the meantime, we are able to share some of the preliminary findings. So let's get on to that. So short about the table. We identified 4 groups, all randomly picked. where 4 are certified, 4 have completed all 4 modules, meaning 3 physical and 1 digital. 4 are halfway through. They finished the 3 physical modules and are now on the 4th. And 4 have not yet started. They start in September. You may also see that there's an age group predominantly consisting of 51 to 60 years olds. So next slides will show some of the main themes of the study, such as expectations prior to the training. So this shows that the majority wish to practically apply the training in real life, becoming a death doula, or adding the knowledge skill to existing roles. And there's also a variety of backgrounds, as you see: priest, life coach, nursing assistant, community activist, and the banker. Yeah, next. So, yeah, and then change to expectations during the training. So as you can see, there's been a little change in expectations prior to the training and during the training. So, were there any changes to expectations on certification? And what was the importance of gaining the certificate and transitioning into practice? Well, it was seen as important and was the goal of the 14 of the 16 people interviewed. The reasons given included credibility of the death doula role, validation that they had assimilated the learning. Of those who had gained the certificate, all indicated that the assessment processes were transparent, with clarity about what was required. They were directly related to the learning, and they did not experience any difficulties in understanding and providing the evidence being sought. And on the question, do you see yourself practicing as a death doula? For example, 5 people were seeking to bring the learning to an existing role. 7 people indicated that their objective was to practice as a death doula. And on the question, what will support you to go from learning to practice? For example, 2 people referred to becoming known in their community, and 6 people expressed the hope that the death doula movement would become better known in Sweden. And finally, on the question, what hurdles or demotivators may get in the way? Some answers were lack of openings and opportunities, lack of hands-on experience affecting confidence, and a need to have an income stream and an uncertainty that this can be a paid role, or can it be combined with a part-time job? So these are examples of the competences under the first heading, promoting self and the death doula movement, that we covered with the people we interviewed. This was to discover whether they saw this would be something they would do, and if they did want to do it, the level of associated confidence. So, for example, we asked about communicating and actively market own practice as a doula and the work of the death doula movement, and running community events like death cafes, workshops, etc. Other initial analysis we covered were, for example, willingness to undertake household tasks, paid role or volunteer, and working alone.
I heard JennyAnn on the radio and was so inspired. It was the right time in my life to embark on a new journey. So I decided to contact JennyAnn and realized that there was only one training in Sweden, Dödsdolan in Scandinavian. I didn't know what to expect. It was new to me, but it seemed credible, rigorous, and very professional. So when the course started, I was not disappointed. It did not fail. It was very good. I trusted the process, and here I am.
To feel confident to move into practice, I would like to be part of a coherent network and to be coached and mentored. I understand it's usually a lone working environment, but to know I have people around me and backing me to be part of an even larger network and movement, it would give me strength and confidence.
So these were some initial conclusions to consider, make changes to, and perhaps tweak at a later stage to meet the learners' expectations. So on the training being well regarded and received, it needs to be noted that there's nothing to compare with. But having said that, we've had 3 people UK jump. They had done the Living Well, Dying Well foundation course first, and then went on to our training. And so again, there's no real competition, including nearby Nordic countries. And on the training gaps, we, for example, discovered hesitancy in opening up a relationship and having conversations to arrive at a plan and agreement for doula support. Also, lack of confidence to advocate with professionals in health and social care settings, and motivation and confidence to go out and promote the doula role in own communities and external bodies, to be on message. And on moving from the learning into practice, there was optimism and desire to do this, coupled with uncertainty as to how this can be achieved. And finally, a continued engagement through a practice development network and mentors is of essence to keep those in training and those certified engaged with the community of practice. So there were, of course, some issues raised for me and for Dödsdoula, but perhaps also for all of us. So, for example, for Dödsdoula, should we seize the opportunity to mobilize? And maybe for all, there is no transnational data on how many people have undertaken trainings and what has happened to them along the way. So I have a sense of very high attrition. And what should Dödsdoula be doing or not doing in this regard? So, for example, move towards systems and processes to hold the emerging and growing death doula movement in Sweden, and to have a coherent and credible network, all pulling together to deliver doula services. And so to finish up, I would like to take the opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to so many people, dead and alive. And on a personal note, that's my mom. We're wearing the same necklace. So thank you so much for listening. Tack, tack.